Hello, everyone. Welcome back to MLS Moves. Please make sure you like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Today is the MLS transfer deadline day. There's been a little movement so far. The window doesn't actually close until midnight Central Time, but there's been a little bit of movement today. We're going to talk about a couple moves, a couple transactions as far as some players were bought out, some bums, lazy players. And we also apparently we got some Poch news, U.S. men's national team news, which is going to be interesting. So we'll talk about that. Make sure you like this video, share the video with a friend. Let's grow the audience as much as we can. Also, it's going to be a Q&A. So if you guys have any questions about your team, about MLS in general, the national team, fire away. I'll try to get to as many as I can tonight. Let's have some fun. We're going to try to go for about an hour. There's a lot to get into. Let's see. Sports Prophet says Pochettino, baby. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple reports about nobody credible yet, right? So we'll wait a little bit and see if maybe some more credible people report on that. But I mean, it's starting to float out there that could happen. Unknown Revival says, doesn't the MLS transfer window end in September? It used to end in September, but they changed it more recently. It used to be September 1st, and then the roster freeze date was like the middle of September, meaning you could add players if they were out of contract from other teams, but they changed that recently, and they've actually shortened the windows. I don't know why they did that. The summer transfer window is actually not even a full month now. I think it's like 27, 28 days. So I'm not exactly sure why they did that, but that's what they've done. And it's a very short window, especially coming off of the Euros and coming off of Copa America. So very odd summer transfer window for Major League Soccer this year. G Malo says, I hate LAFC, but if they get Griezmann, they are winning the MLS Cup. Hey, if they do get Griezmann, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. Yes, they have to be the favorite to win MLS Cup. So we'll see if they can get that done before midnight Central Time. There's still 4 hours left, or a little less than 4 hours. Plenty of time to get it done. We'll see what happens. Excited to talk about these moves that have been made and potential moves to be made still for the for MLS transfer window deadline day. Angelo Greco says Red Bulls should go for Campana. Yeah, that would be interesting. Campana, I think, could be had. I think that Inter Miami would definitely listen to offers for him. Inter Miami, if you guys will remember, traded for an international roster spot with Seattle recently, and they haven't used that spot yet. It wasn't for Martinez. So we'll see what happens with that extra international roster spot that Inter Miami has. I'll need to look that up and see what the roster freeze date is for MLS. Maybe that still is until September. I just know that today's the last day that they can purchase a player and bring them to MLS. Let's see what the freeze date is. Okay, so the roster freeze date for MLS is the September 13th of 2024. So it says, at which times clubs must submit their final 30-man roster. Rosters cannot be exchanged from the date through the day after MLS Cup. So they can still sign players on a free transfer. They just can't buy players after today. So if a guy's out of a contract, they could still sign them. So that makes it a little tricky because, you know, a player could be bought out at one of their clubs in Europe or South America, and they could still theoretically come here. But if a team wants to buy a player, they have to be bought tonight at 12 o'clock Central, or they cannot make their way to MLS. Mr. says, if the Poch news is true, that's a big get for you guys. That is a huge get for the national team if we get Pochettino. I obviously wasn't expecting to get a big coach. I thought they were, they were trying to lead us down a path where we had our high hopes and we had big expectations, and I thought we were going to be let down. But if they get Pochettino, that's a huge, huge move because England wanted him as well. So him choosing the national team, U.S. men's national team over England would be a huge get for the U.S. men's national team. And it would have me very excited, and I'd be curious to see what we can do in 2026. And I'll feel very good about what we could do in 2026. Who's getting Poch? Yeah, it's still too early. We'll see what happens. Hopefully we get him, but we will see what happens. Manuel Villalobos, a member of the channel, said USMNT exclamation mark. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see if they can get him. Hopefully that will happen. Raymond Flores says LAFC is a scary team. Yeah, they are a scary team. They have a lot of talent, and they looked really good last night. Won 4-0 or 4-1 against San Jose, and Giroud played 20 minutes. But they're just that deep and they're that good. So they looked really good last night. If they get Griezmann, I don't think any team's going to beat them. No matter what additions are made last minute, if LAFC gets Griezmann, it's a wrap. Let's see. My crew got a goalkeeper. We have a DP spot. Wish we could get a bigger ball playing defender to work with Camacho. Well, okay, so let's just go ahead and get into some of the moves that were made today. Okay, I want to talk about a move that didn't happen, more specifically with Charlotte. So Charlotte, Fabrizio reported a couple days ago that Charlotte was on the verge of sealing the signing of Calvin Stengs from Feyenoord. Calvin Stengs is 25 years old, midfielder, can play on the wing, can play as a 10. He went to Nice in the French league, and he kind of flopped. He didn't do very well. Went on loan to Antwerp and played in the Belgian league, and then he got a move back to the Eredivisie with Feyenoord. And he played really well last season. I think in all competitions, he had 8 goals and like 16 assists. He's got 8 caps for the Dutch national team. This looked like a good move. And if you look at his value on transfer market, he's worth around 15 million euros, I think. Something along those lines. Let's see. Okay, so he's worth 15 million euros, and now the transfer market's obviously a rough estimate, right? That's not the end all be all, but so it's a rough estimate of what his value is. And they reportedly accepted like $8 million to $9 million offer, which is half what his value is estimated to be. So that was kind of a red flag with him, right? You're like, why would they accept the half of his value to sell him? He's a really good player. Well, obviously the deal fell through, but more information had came out that said that they were skeptical about his knees. Apparently, he's got some knee issues, and so that kind of had Charlotte thinking, well, I don't even know if we want to pay the $8 to $9 million for him. I mean, we might need to make a revision. And I've heard the league got involved with the deal as well. They didn't really want to do that because they've had concerns about his medical. And also too, they play on turf. So that makes it even worse, right? If you have bad knees, playing on turf is the worst possible thing you could do. So that kind of put the deal in jeopardy. And I think that they with the revised offer that they weren't willing to sell him for anything less than $8 million. So that deal got sidelined, and it's sad because I thought Calvin Stengs would be a good player to bring to MLS, right? Good quality. He's been really good in the Eredivisie, so you would assume he'd be very good in MLS. So they moved their attention on to another player, one that you might be familiar with, a Mr. Miguel Almirón. Okay, this is a Atlanta United legend. He's one of the first DPs. I think he technically is the first DP they had ever signed. And this was such a revolutionary signing for Major League Soccer because this was like the first of its kind. This was a young South American player who had a lot of promise who chose to come to MLS. And he came to MLS at 23 years old, I want to say, from Lanús in the Argentine League. And they paid $8 million, which isn't much, but keep in mind in 2016, and for MLS standards, that's a crazy fee. So they sign him. He comes to MLS. They get Tata Martino as a manager. I think Tata Martino is actually the one who wanted to, who recommended the signing because Tata Martino spent time as the Paraguayan national team coach. He's got a soft spot for the Paraguayan players, and he's got a keen eye for talent in Paraguay. So they sign him. He comes to Atlanta United. They signed Joseph Martinez. The rest is history. You know what happened in Atlanta. Well, he gets sold to Newcastle United for, let's look and make sure we get this deal correct. Don't want to report how much the fee was for Miguel Almirón. So he's worth 20 million euros right now, which I don't think that's what they would get for him. So he was sold for 24 million euros, and I think there was some add-ons that could brought that fee up to closer to 27 million. And it's the most expensive outgoing transfer fee in MLS history. And he's had a up and down career at Newcastle. A lot of Newcastle fans, if you read the comment section, were looking forward to getting rid of him. But he was a very good player in MLS, and he was a decent player at least in the Premier League. And there's a lot of teams that would love to have him. So Charlotte comes in and they say, "Hey, we want to get Miguel Almirón. We want to, if we can't get Stengs, let's try to get him." So they make an offer. They send representatives over to England or London to talk to Newcastle officials and try to get this deal done. It fell through because there just wasn't enough time to get all the paperwork, and all the logistics and everything situated. And I think that's the reason it didn't get done. But and plus, honestly, let's be completely honest. If they had gotten this deal done, Atlanta United fans would have lost their mind. If they're the best player, well, Joseph Martinez, it's close. Okay, it's close. But if one of the top two players in their club history came back to the league at 30 years old and went to, I guess you could call a rival. I mean, it's one of the closer clubs to Atlanta. If they went to a rival club, they would have lost their mind. So I don't think Atlanta United fans would have been too happy about that. Obviously, they would have loved to see him return to Atlanta, but the deal fell through, and I'll be interested to see if they try to pursue him again in the near future. I think Atlanta are stuck with a young DP slot until next year, so no signings. Young DP spot. I think they only have one true DP, and I think it's the Russian international, if I'm not mistaken. Everybody else can be bought down. Let me look and see. They even have it listed on here like that. I don't even see I think that he's technically the only true DP because I know Saba can be bought down. I want to say that Bardos is a U22. So I think that he's, if I'm not mistaken, I think that Miranchuk is the only true DP on Atlanta United right now. So I think that they could. I don't think they have any other true DPs on the roster, but I know a lot of Atlanta United fans are upset because they just made $53 million in transfer fees this summer by selling Thiago Almada, from selling Giorgio Giacomakis, Caleb Wiley, and then getting a fee from the Ezekiel Barco transfer to, did he go to a Russian team or was it a Ukrainian team? It was one of the two. But he got recently sold for like 14 million euros. So a lot of fans, rightfully so, are upset because they didn't really spend much. I mean, let's see how much they spent on Miranchuk. I'm just curious about this, which is it's a decent signing, right? I mean, it's not too bad, but I don't think they spent more than like 13 million on him, right? Oh, that's the wrong guy. Let's see. Let's see what he cost. There's a couple of these guys, apparently the same exact name. Is this not him? Okay, here we go. This is him. Okay, so they spent 12 million euros on him, and they made close to 53 million euros this summer. So we're talking about a 41 million euro profit, right? Or net gain from sales this summer after expenses, and they just spent 12 million. Garth Lagerwey is a very good general manager, front office man in MLS. We'll see what he can do, but I mean, I'm a little skeptical. I think Atlanta United fans are definitely skeptical, especially after what they witnessed the last couple years in the Gonzalo Pineda era, which was a disaster. And frankly, it's been a disaster since Tata Martino. There was maybe one good season under Frank de Boer, but everything else has pretty much been a disaster in that time period. So I'm struggling to see the vision. I reported that I think Patrick Vieira is probably the favorite for the position right now to be the next Atlanta United manager. I would say he's probably the favorite at this point. I don't know when they're going to make the hire, but I would say that he's probably the favorite. It'll be interesting to see if that gets done before the end of the season. He's out of a contract, and if the Pochettino rumors are correct and we end up hiring him, then Patrick Vieira seems like he's in the driver's seat to be the next manager of Atlanta United. So that will be an interesting hire. I'd love to know what you guys think if that happens. Guys, if you don't mind, please like this video down below, share with a friend, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that little bell notification so you never miss any of my videos. Really appreciate all the support. Looking forward to more conversation on a couple other moves tonight. It's been an interesting day. I'm gonna try to keep up with what's going on Twitter while we're doing this, just in case we don't miss anything. Because, like I said, the transfer window does not close until midnight Central Time, so we still have less than 4 hours of until the deadline has passed, and there will be no more moves made in the transfer window. Let's see. Eric Rosales, why has MLS let stadiums with turf? Seattle always win because of advantage of well, I mean, a lot of these stadiums have turf because they're shared with NFL teams, and every NFL team, for the most part, has turf. So that's most soccer-specific stadiums, meaning only MLS teams play there, don't have turf. So there's only a few. There's only a few MLS stadiums. I think there's New England, Seattle, Atlanta. I think Vancouver. There's like 5 stadiums, I think, with turf at this point in MLS, which is better than what it used to be. But I agree that it's still a huge issue. We definitely need to try to eliminate as many turf fields as we possibly can. Sports Profit says MLS improving rapidly. To be honest, very exciting times. I wouldn't say rapidly, but I mean, there's obviously more they could do. I'd like to see them make a little bit more movement. I'm sure some of you guys would as well. This has been a more quiet transfer window. There's still time, but like I said, it's unprecedented because of the tournaments, Copa America, Euros. It kind of delayed things a little bit. And then also the window closes super early. Normally it closes at the end of September, and the roster freeze date is about the same time, about the middle of September, which it still is. So things are a little different this year. Kind of curious why they changed it. Not necessarily sure why they decided to make an earlier transfer window. Anthony Booker says LAFC will now be the first true super team. Miami has failed so far to prove they are anything close to a super team with their horrible defense. I mean, yeah, I would say that probably their defense is definitely a liability. You saw last night they were up 2-0 and they conceded 2 goals in 3 minutes. And I mean, it was just an embarrassing loss last night for them in Leagues Cup against Columbus. I think Miami definitely could have done a better job reinforcing their back line. When Kristoff is still on the roster, that's a bad sign because Kristoff is terrible. I don't know about you guys. I think Kristoff is one of the worst defenders and worst players in the league. So, yeah, not good. We talking about defense at LAFC. Are you saying, are we talking about defenders? You think they're going to add some defenders? Why is the MLS transfer window so short? It normally isn't. Normally it's like a month, and it's one of the longer transfer windows. It's normally like July 1st through close to the end of August, if I'm not mistaken. That's what it's been in years past. Pochettino is confirmed to be the U.S. men's national team manager. Really? Let me go look and see. Who confirmed it? Who confirmed he's the manager? If I'll say this real quick because this is obviously um this is going to be an MLS transfer episode. I will say this though. If the U.S. men's national team were able to land Pochettino as the next U.S. men's national team manager, that would be the biggest hire they could have made outside of Klopp. That would have been the biggest hire. That's an A plus hire. Huge get for them. And I would be over the moon. I would love that. That's an A plus hire for me. I would have some more confidence than I've had in years past with the U.S. men's national team and the Soccer Federation. But let's see what happens. Nothing is done until it's officially announced. Let's wait and see if there's anybody that announces it, any prominent people, before we get too excited. Zach Cap says FC Cincinnati is reportedly in negotiations with Gio Achini. Waiting for that Bogert confirmation, though. Gio Achini. So you think he's reportedly coming back already from Serie A? I mean, he didn't even get to play yet, right? I mean, they were in Serie B, so that would be interesting if he came back this soon. He only played 9 games of Serie A. Let's see. Discuss Minnesota United. They've added 2 DPs and a total of 5 players. All right, let's go to Minnesota United. Let's look at their moves. And by the way, I'm going to do a video talking about the 5 most impressive teams for this transfer cycle and the 5 least impressive teams for this transfer cycle. I did see the Joaquin or Joaquin Pereira signing. I saw that was close. That's not official yet. To my knowledge, it's not official. I'm trying to pull up like we can see what they've paid for their players. So the only thing that's official is Kelvin Yeboah. They paid 3 million euros from him from Genoa, which is interesting. He's a striker. Pookie I thought's been pretty good for Minnesota United. I've been impressed with him. I don't know about you, Ted Lasso, what you think about him. Minnesota's kind of been they've made some moves and there's been a couple reported moves, but they've been kind of under the radar, right? That's not really the prominent teams we've talked about when discussing all the moves being made throughout this transfer window. So it's done, $2.4 million, 70% of his rights. It's not bad. That's a good move. And then obviously you guys have the youngest manager in MLS, Eric Ramsey, if I'm not mistaken, like 32 years old or something like that. That'd be interesting. I'll be curious to see. Finally, you guys are free of the Adrian Heath days, right? Those days were long and dark. Sorry, getting some text about Pochettino. How many DPs can an MLS team have, and what counts a player to be a DP? Okay, so we'll get into more moves, but this is a good question. So there are 3 DPs per team. Okay, and there's 3 U22s. Or more recently, they've changed it to where you can have 2 DPs and you can have 4 U22s. 2 DPs, 4 U22s, or 3 DPs and 3 U22s. So a DP is any player who makes over $600,000, and that could be considered DP. Sometimes the TAM, targeted allocation money, is someone whose salary is between like $650K and like $1.6 million. Typically, a DP, a true DP, meaning they can't be bought down, is someone whose salary exceeds the $1.6 million a year, or somebody whose salary, along with their transfer fee, they take the transfer fee. So let's say it's 5 million. They add it to their salary and divide it by how long the contract is. And if that number exceeds the 1.6 million, then they are a true DP. Any player who can be bought down with TAM, I don't consider a true DP. A lot of teams will do that so that way that they can save their resources for a later date, and they can buy down more players or use that for transfer fees. So essentially, if you're making over 1.6 million a year, you are a true DP. Expecting any moves to happen before the deadline. Well, let's go ahead and talk about about Griezmann. Okay, so Griezmann, I know they're still trying to make it work. It's going to be right to the deadline if it happens. It's going to be right to the final seconds if they can get it through. I know that you guys probably saw earlier that Abraham Romero was traded to Columbus, if I'm not mistaken, for general allocation money. Why else would they do that move to get some more resources allocation money if they didn't have something planned or lined up? I believe that LAFC definitely has something lined up. I don't think it's anyone else except Griezmann if it happens. The team's pretty well balanced out right now. They've added some pieces, and I think that it's pretty much Griezmann or nothing else this window. But why else would they trade Abraham Romero to Columbus if they didn't have something lined up? I think that is definitely a possibility. It's going to go right down to the wire. It is what is it? What's the time in France right now? So 3:29. So the transfer window ends, let's see, 3.5 hours. So the transfer window ends at like 7 a.m. in France for MLS. Like, it'll be 7 o'clock French time when the transfer window closes in MLS. So we'll see what happens. I mean, anything can happen. It's going to go right down to the wire. IC says Cincinnati signs Nicholas Gioacchini. I always butcher his name. Gioacchini. That's just kind of crazy. He's coming back so soon because he literally just went to what the Serie A team. I'm slipping my mind right now. He went to Como. He was sold for like what, $2 million back in January. That's crazy. Just 7 months later, he's already coming back to MLS. That's kind of disappointing, honestly, right? I mean, he's 24 years old. They just got promoted to Serie A this past season, which he helped, right? He played 9 games. So that's a little concerning that he's already coming back that soon. Personally, I think that's very concerning. Minnesota is going to buy down Laud as a DP. Griezmann ain't coming, man. Give it up. He wants to play with Julian. I don't think he cares about that, honestly. I think I think you could make the argument he would want to play with Giroud and Hugo Lloris as much as he wants to play with Julian. And I just don't buy that. I think that they wanted to have a replacement for him. Listen, it might not happen. It might not happen today or this window, but it will. If it doesn't happen today, it will most likely happen in the winter. So, I mean, he's coming. It's just a matter of when. Matter of when, not if. Julian Alvarez or Antoine Griezmann will be a player of LAFC. I thought Martin Pass was going to Empoli of Serie A. I did remember seeing the rumors about that, but I think maybe something held up. Maybe that could still happen. He's been pretty good for FC Dallas since he's been here. I'm not sure if sometimes things like that can be held up. Just like a couple small details can just throw off the whole deal. I mean, they still have 3.5 hours. That could still happen. But if that hasn't happened already, especially something that's been rumored like that for a couple weeks, it's probably dead. It's probably not going to happen. La Liga starts tomorrow. Is still Griezmann a reality in MLS? Yes, I think that it's still a possibility he could come tonight. I said this a minute ago that LAFC had traded or traded Abraham Romero to Columbus, their goalkeeper, for some general allocation money. Why else would they do that unless there's another move lined up where they need to buy someone down to fit under the salary cap? I think that there definitely could be something else happening. Now, like I said, that's going to go down to the wire. That's not something that's going to get done in the next 20 minutes. That's something that's going to probably happen in the middle of the night, or we'll hear about it tomorrow morning. But that is definitely a possibility still. I would not count it out. You saw the Poch news. Any truth to it? I'm not sure if it's true yet. I'm a little skeptical. Um, I think that there's a good chance that could happen, but I still think Pochettino would prefer to be the England national team manager, which he should be the favorite for, right? Who else are they going to hire? Um, Southgate's not coming back, and who else would be on the market that would take that job? I told you he wouldn't go to LAFC, bro. I mean, it's not. I mean, we still have 3.5 hours. Something like this is just everybody who's reported about LAFC and Griezmann. First of all, well, let me say this too. My buddy Nick Chastain was the first person to really talk about this move. Okay. Everybody was saying it was a dream. It was far fetched. It was never going to happen. Yet then people started reporting, well, Griezmann's interested in LAFC. He wants to join Giroud. He wants to go play with Hugo Lloris. Then I was hearing the same thing. Now, I don't know if I reported this last night, but one of the snags in the deal that I've heard is that the league, or I'm sorry, LAFC wanted the league or MLS teams to pay his salary. The LAFC wanted teams to pay Antoine Griezmann's salary, kind of like they pay Messi's salary, and the league told them no. So the reason why so both sides agreed to salary. Both Griezmann and LAFC agreed to a deal, but they did not want to pay his salary. They wanted the league to pay his salary like Messi, and that's what they're wrenching it, because MLS said, no, we're not going to pay his salary. And from what I heard, the salary was between $20 to $25 million. LAFC could easily afford that if they wanted to. Easily afford to do that. So it's a shame they couldn't make it work, but I mean, that's just how it goes. I mean, they couldn't make the league pay it. It still could happen, but the problem is that LAFC is going to have to pay his salary. And are they going to do that? I don't know. I don't know if they're going to do that. Didn't Sergio Ramos' agent go look at MLS facilities? Yeah, that was the report that he went to go check out a couple of places and see how much, or go check out the facilities and see what team would be best for him. Guys, we got 82 people watching. Please make sure you like the show. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that little bell notification so you never miss a video. Share with a friend. Let's grow this. Let's try to get to 100 live viewers. I think we're close to like 30 likes. Be nice if we could hit 50 likes tonight. That'd be a nice goal that we could reach, and I think we can do it. Just make sure you like the video down below. I'm so sure Griezmann wants to go to MLS when Atletico have a good chance of winning the league, which he has never won. Has he never won the league? Let's see. They won it. So they won it the COVID year, which I think he was at Barca at that point. And then I guess he didn't win the league. Did he not win it in? Let's see. Hold on. Go down to his honors. Let's see what he's done. Yeah, I guess he's never won the league before at any of his stops. Interesting. Yeah, I don't really think that matters to him that much anymore. I mean, yes, it would be nice to win a league title at Atletico, but let's be completely honest. You really think Atletico Madrid's going to beat Real Madrid with all the moves they made? You really think Atletico Madrid's going to beat Real Madrid this year? That's not going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. Who knows if Atletico Madrid's even going to finish top 2? They might finish 3rd or 4th. And on top of it, he's already won the biggest trophy you can win. He won the World Cup. He is 33 years old, okay? He loves America. He loves the culture, the lifestyle. He loves basketball, baseball, football. He loves everything about America. He wants to come over here. He wants to be paid handsomely. He wants to enjoy the LA beaches. He wants to enjoy the California lifestyle. I don't think that matters to him. I don't think he cares at 33 years old about trying to win a title with Atletico Madrid. I don't think that. I think he's past that point. I don't think that really matters to him anymore. Let's talk about also Shaqiri, right? Shaqiri was bought out today. That's another move that was made. Now, Shaqiri is one of those players that's like lightning in a bottle, right? Sometimes he looks really good, and you're like, man, this guy could be the guy. Like he could be a focal point of a good team. And then there's times you look at him and you look at him, you're just like, dude, his performance is this hairline right here. That's how bad it is. Equal to that hairline. Okay. And that's the sad thing about Shaqiri is that you just always seen that, but he just can never put it together in a full season and just shown that he cares. He's like one of those guys who plays really good for the national team and then plays terribly for his club team. Now, when Chicago signed him in 2022, I thought, that's not a bad signing for Chicago, right? Because this is a team that desperately needs to get some fan engagement. This is a team that needs to get the fans excited. This is a team that needs a player to really carry them, right? And they bought him for €6.5 million or $7.5 million, which seemed like a pretty decent fee at the time because he was only 31 years old and he was making $8 million a year, which made him one of the highest paid players in Major League Soccer. And he just disappears. He doesn't do much. He just never lived up to that price tag. And I would even go as far to say is he's one of the biggest busts in MLS history. I don't know what you guys think about that, but I think Shaqiri is one of the biggest busts in MLS history. His first year, he had 29 appearances, 7 goals. Okay. Second year, he had 28 appearances and 5 goals. And then his third year, he had 12 appearances and 2 goals. Now, he missed some time because of the Euros, so he didn't play as many games as he possibly could have. But 69 appearances and 14 goals is just not enough for a guy that's supposed to be your superstar on your team. They were dependent on him getting things done and prevailing this team, and he is a huge disappointment. And you can't be when you're paying someone $7 million, $8 million a year in MLS, they have to produce. They have to produce. They can't be a player who doesn't score or set players up or make plays and just that's unnoticeable and lazy and checked out most games. They have to be an impact player, and he's not. So huge disappointment for Shaqiri was for Chicago Fire, huge disappointment. And if they hire Greg Berhalter, which is a huge possibility, that could be the next manager of Chicago Fire. And on top of that, he could be the technical director too. That would be a huge disappointment for the Chicago Fire. And if I was a fan of the team, I would be very concerned about that. Shaqiri is just there to retire. Yeah, I mean he had like a 5-year deal with like $7-8 million a year. Let's look that up real quick. Highest paid, and keep in mind these numbers are not totally accurate. I know he's like top 5. Okay, so this was published July 29th, 2024. Okay. So Shaqiri was the 4th highest paid player in MLS, making $7.35 million a year. And he was okay. Now, Lorenzo Insigne actually is probably the most overrated player, and the salary is not accurate. He's actually making like 15 million a year. Let me see if I can find a more um, accurate list of the highest paid players because Shaqiri is making like 15 million a year. Okay, here we go. This is on MLS's website. Okay, so Shaqiri's actually making $8.1 million. Okay, totally overpaid. Sergio Busquets is making 8.7. Lorenzo Insigne is making $15.4 million. That is crazy. Think about how overpaid he is. Now, this Messi compensation 20 million is totally fabricated. It's or false. That's not even remotely close. I've heard his guaranteed compensation is 50 million plus Apple TV share or Apple TV percentage of season pass. He gets a percentage of that, and I heard he gets a significant portion of his jersey sales. So that number is not really accurate. But Shaqiri making eight. Shaqiri was the fourth highest paid player in MLS. Look at this list of players. He's not better than them. He's not better than Driussi. He's not better than Bernardeschi, Forsberg, Herrera, Mukhtar, Carlos Gil. He's not better than any of these players except maybe Luis Muriel. I mean, he's been kind of a disappointment for Orlando City, but you get the point. Look at Denny Bouanga. Denny Bouanga is making 3.6 million. He's making more than double what Denny Bouanga is making. And look at the quality of player difference between the two. He's making double what Lucho Acosta is making. Shaqiri was supposed to be the Lucho Acosta and more for Chicago Fire, right? He was supposed to be that level impact player. Lucho Acosta scored 17 goals last year. He's got 11 goals this year, 10 goals in 2022 and 7 in 2021. And he's led the league in assists last year, if I'm not mistaken, too. So you look at the level of player and what they were needing from him, and he never lived up to those expectations. So Shaqiri is got to be one of the biggest busts up there with Insigne when it's over and done for him, and he'll be up there too, just because of the salary. But Insigne has to be, or excuse me, Shaqiri has to be top 3 biggest bust in MLS history. He has been a huge disaster for the Chicago Fire. Icy says Chicago need to build their own stadium and maybe a whole sweep within parts of the organization, starting with the coach. I hope New England get their stadium over the line, though. I think they will. I think Chicago, or speaking of New England, I think they'll get their stadium done. Chicago's in deep trouble. Chicago had the opportunity to hire Garth Lagerwey instead of him going to Atlanta, and they chose to pass on him because he wanted to have a lot of power in player movement and the coaching and just the organization. He wanted to be what a true president is for an organization, and they didn't want that. They wanted someone that he could be the general manager, and that's about it. Okay, they didn't want him having complete power. And I don't. The owner's name is slipping my mind, but he just did not want to meet the demands of Lagerwey, especially the spending demands, because Lagerwey spends differently, but he likes to spend. He's known to spend money. So that's sad. It could have been interesting. Chicago definitely deserves a competent team, right? I mean, it's a huge market, a lot of soccer fans in the area. It's really sad to see, to be honest with you. Any update for the Red Bulls? Any other moves besides the Uruguayan? Not that I've heard. The Uruguayan that they're linked with is slipping my mind, but I think that it was Warner that they wanted. Timo Werner was a player that they were trying to get, but they couldn't make the finances work on that. That was someone they were trying. I was told when they signed Forsberg that the Red Bulls were trying to make another big splash move, that they wanted to prove to the Red Bull faithful, that the fans of the Red Bulls, that they are committed to making this a perennial winner, that they're tired of the mediocrity. They're going to really try to build this thing up, and they want to prove that they want to win an MLS Cup, like their Leipzig and Salzburg, always competing and finishing. Well, Salzburg owns the Austrian league, but Leipzig is they not more recently, but they have been a top 4, top 5 team in the Bundesliga. They want to try to get to that level for the New York Red Bulls, and that they were going to be different and try to invest more in the team. They weren't able to get that other big signing done this summer, but I do expect them to do something in the winter, or even possibly in the in the summer, I think that next summer is going to be a lot different than this summer because there is no major tournament, and no, Leagues Cup is not a major tournament. It's not false. The first article was showing the base compensation. This article is showing the guaranteed compensation. Yeah, but that's the thing. The guaranteed compensation is what they're going to get paid no matter what. So I would rather give that number because Insigne's base compensation $7 million. His guaranteed compensation is $15.5 million. I mean, that's a pretty significant, um, uh, disparity there. Would you rather have Busquets or Shaqiri? I'd rather have Sergio Busquets because obviously he was signed to keep Messi happy, and he was there to obviously replicate Barca light and Inter Miami. And I think he is a better player at this point. He's playing more center back these days, or a sweep as a sweeper. Um, I would probably say Busquets, but Busquets is overpaid too. He's making close to $9 million, and he's not really worth it for what he does. So it's not very good. What is Tim Howard's new role at Houston Dynamo? Did he get hired? I must have missed that. Did he get hired at Houston? Oh, he joined the owner. He's a minority owner, I think. Yeah, he's a minority investor in the team. I don't think he has any particular role. I just think he owned Memphis 901 too, 901 as well. Excuse me, and I don't think there's anything significantly different than what he's doing. I think he's just an investor. I don't think he's going to get like any type of front office role or anything from that. You expect any huge moves tonight? I think there could be some huge moves, honestly. I think there could be a couple moves we haven't heard of that's just trying to get across the finish line. I tweeted this earlier, which I do believe this, and this is what I've heard. I tweeted that when things are quiet, that means big things are happening behind the scenes. And I do think that there's a couple of things that we don't know about that they're trying to get done. So we'll see what happens. I think there is a couple moves that haven't been reported yet. They're trying to get across the line. He covers Charlotte yet? Yeah. Okay. We'll talk about the move that they did make. I did talk a little bit earlier about Calvin Stangs and Miguel Almirón. But Charlotte looks like they're going to get a deal for Pep Biel. I think is how you pronounce his name. It's his Spanish attacking mid, which is what they've been trying to target, like a number 10. Now, this is kind of a low risk signing for Charlotte, right? This is a guy that when your other options fall through, like Almirón and Stangs, this is like kind of, I guess, your C option, but they didn't even buy him. They got him on loan, and they want to see what he can do to decide if they want to buy him. I think he's at Olympiacos of the Greece league. See what he's worth. I remember looking at him earlier. His transfer market value is not nearly as high as Stangs or Almirón. So €3 million. So this is a very low risk, low reward signing. Or low risk, high reward potential signing because they're only he's on a loan for the rest of the year. I don't think it's a full year loan. I think it's only half a year. And what happened there? Anyway, so they can buy him if he has a good season. He'll get a chance to prove himself under Dean Smith at Charlotte. And if he does well, then they'll buy him. If he doesn't do well, they'll move on, maybe try to go approach Feyenoord for Calvin Stangs again, or approach Newcastle for Miguel Almirón again. There's possibilities, but Charlotte are trying to make a run at the playoffs this year and try to make some noise. They obviously signed Tim Ream as well. Now, Tim Ream is interesting because he's 37. He'll be 38 this year, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe he'll be 37 this year. I'm sorry. He's 36. He'll be 37 in October. I don't know how much time he has left at a high level. He can maybe give you a year and a half of a pretty productive level center back for MLS standards, but that's pretty much all you can expect out of Tim Ream. I mean, he's 36, almost 37 years old. You can't be counting on a 38, 39-year-old center back to be your best defender. I mean, you can't. You're setting yourself up for failure, especially in MLS because we know the attack is so much more lopsided than the defense, right? The attack, they spend all their money on attack. Loan from Olympiacos and 2 failed transfers for Stangs and Almirón. Yep. Yep, it's a shame. You thought that they could have at least gotten one of the bigger signings done, but hey, you have to applaud them for trying to get it done, right? You have to applaud them for going out and being proactive. Some MLS teams have done absolutely nothing this window. Some teams have done nothing. What has Colorado signed anybody? Not to rag on Colorado fans, right? It's not your guys' fault. I mean, they did a lot of stuff in the off season, right, in the winter transfer window, but they haven't done anything in the summer to kind of bolster their team. They bought Navarro, but he was already on the team. They just activated his purchase clause. Yeah, I mean he's been on the team for over a year now. So like that does I mean they bought him, but they haven't really done anything. I mean look at this. This is their moves. They've done nothing. So these are teams that haven't made any moves. There's a couple other. New York City hasn't made a move either. New York City FC, I'm really disappointed in them, but they also had a very active winter transfer window, and they haven't done anything since. They did buy out or loan Talis Magno to Corinthians, if I'm not mistaken, but I don't think they've made any moves. Yeah, they haven't made any moves. They loaned Nicholas Asvido to I think it's Bahia, and then they loaned they're about to loan Talis Magno to Corinthians. So they haven't done anything either. There's several teams. Don't feel left out if your team hasn't made a move. Several teams have not made a move, and I will be doing a video on that soon, talking about the 5 best and the 5 worst transfer windows this summer. MLS teams. That should be interesting. That's strange. He was a sporting director with Memphis. I think you're talking about Tim Howard. Yeah, maybe he just wants to kick back, relax, invest in the team, and just kind of watch things from afar, like not be too hands on with the team. Griezmann to LAFC is a no-go after all this summer, it seems. That's not necessarily true. There's still almost 3 hours until the window closes. They made a trade earlier. They traded Abraham Romero to Columbus Crew. I mean, they had to have done that for a reason, right? They got some general allocation money in that trade. I think they have something lined up. I don't know what it is, but they have to have something lined up. When is the LA Galaxy getting another big name to compete with their crosstown rivals? That's a good question. My friend Manuel Veth of Transfer Market actually reported that the Marco Royce deal is agreed upon between LA Galaxy and himself. They're just waiting for the league to approve the deal. So the paperwork is at the front office, and they're just waiting for them to give the final seal of approval. So I don't know. I don't know. That's interesting. It kind of makes you wonder, why is the league holding it up? What are they waiting for? The deadline, when is the deadline day officially over? So the window closes tonight at midnight Central Time. So we have a little over 3 hours left of the transfer window. Stangs is not ever going to come to Charlotte. He left him standing at the altar. That's not true. I heard that there was concerns about his knees. He had some knee problems, and that's why we went over this a little bit earlier, but he's valued at like close to 50. It's a rough estimate, but he's valued at like close to 15 million euros. They were going to sell him for $8 million, $9 million, almost half of his value. So that was a cause for concern. They did a little digging. They obviously looked at his medical when he came over here. And I think that they saw some concerning things, especially with him playing on turf. I think that they pulled out. Well, they didn't pull out on the deal, but they pulled out on the original agreed terms because they had some significant question marks about his longevity and if he would be able to make it. You know, they don't want to spend $10 million on a guy who's got bad knees and is not going to be able to play. What are your thoughts on Atlanta United player? Are you talking about the Russian player, or are you talking about okay, so yeah, so there was a isn't there a player that they were trying to get on loan, a striker? Let me see. Who was the player they were trying to get on loan? I did see something about that recently. Oh, you're talking about the Russian. I don't know too much about him. I've seen some positive things. They paid 12 million euros for him, so he needs to be an impact player. He can't be a Luis Aruju or whatever, however you said his name, where they signed him last minute and he was a total disaster for Atlanta United. After selling Almada, after selling Yakimakis, after selling Wiley, they have to hit on this player because this has got to be a player that could be a focal point for the team going forward. So, um, yeah, wearing 59 is weird too, right? I don't know about that. That's an odd number to be picking as a new number 10, right? So we'll see what happens. I think he'll be good. I just don't know what level of he'll contribute to this team and how different he'll make this team. But honestly, they have to sign a coach. They got to get a coach in here soon, right? I think it's Rob Valentine or Valentino that's the current interim manager. They need to. I just don't like signing players with an interim manager. I like to have the new manager come in here and get the players that fit his system. What's up without a number 9? Alexi will suffer. Yeah, they have to get a number 9, and obviously you thought that would be a priority with them selling Yakimakis, that would happen. So it is a shame. Hopefully they can get someone in the winter transfer window. Now they had Steven Bergwijn. Obviously, he's a winger. That was a player that they were in contention for, and he was a little bit too pricey for them. I think they offered 15 million euros. Oh, so his value actually just went down. Okay, so let me see this. Okay, so it has been down for a little bit. Never mind. So they offered 15. Maybe I saw they wanted 25 for him. So they offered 15 million for Steven Bergwijn, and they want close to like 20 to 25 million for him. Now, this could be a player that I think can make a huge difference um, for Atlanta United. He had a bad stint at Toronto, or I'm sorry, Tottenham, not Toronto, Tottenham, but that was because Jose Mourinho got fired. They had Conte come in, two different managers, and I think it just kind of was hard for him to fit in and just never really worked out, different style of play. But then he goes back to Ajax, and he's been very good. Isn't he the captain of the team? Yeah, he's the captain of Ajax. I mean, he's been a very good player for Ajax since he came back to the Eredivisie. And I also saw that RSL signed Dominic. I might butcher this name. Dominic Marczuk. Marczuk, I think is how you say his name, which would seem to be a replacement for Andres Gomez. They signed him from the Polish league for like 2 million, I think, or 1.5 mil, 1.5 million euros. That's interesting signing for RSL. A player that comes in here will replace Andres Gomez, who they're selling for. I want to say it was like, I mean, it's a really good deal for RSL. They're selling him for like 10 million euros with 4 million in add-ons and 15% future sell-on fee, 15%. I mean, they're getting a very good deal from Rennes to sell Andres Gomez. And this looks like it'll be a replacement for him. Very good player. RSL is a sneaky team. They're building their team with young South American players, which is working out very nicely for them. I would love to see. Obviously, every MLS team can't sign Griezmann. They can't sign Messi. They can't sign, the bigger name players, but they can sign these young South Americans now. And that's the key to building a good team in MLS is to sign these young South American players. It also makes for exciting football, right? RSL until recently was at the top of the table and looked like they were the probably the best team in MLS. Where is RSL? Am I missing it? Oh, here it is. Okay. They were looking like arguably the best team in Major League Soccer. I mean, they are all their integral pieces are young South Americans, except for Chicha Arango. He's kind of like the veteran. Um, he's like the veteran South American player. And they signed Diogo Gonzalez, Goncalves. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce his name. I'm butchering it already. But they signed him, which I think he's going to be a DP, 3 million euro fee, 3 million euros. That's a good signing. So they're adding pieces. They're trying to go for it and compete for an MLS Cup this year. I don't know if they'll actually do it, but they're trying. They got Diego Luna. They got they're obviously selling him, but Ojeda is very good. Anderson Julio is pretty good. They've just got a lot of good young pieces, and they're a very fun team to watch. Pablo Mastroianni's been a very good coach for them. I was kind of skeptical of him from his time with the Colorado Rapids, but he's proven me wrong that he is a competent, good manager. So you'd love to see it. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Let's say Griezmann doesn't come in the next couple hours. What if that game they had been collecting is for Vela return? Just a thought. I don't think Vela's coming back. I mean, Carlos Vela has been in Europe all off season, drinking wine, skiing with his wife, having a good long family vacation. But he's 35 years old and he was starting to get hurt and miss games. Let's see how many games he played last year. Okay, so he played in all games last year, but he's had injury concerns like in 2020 and 2021, and he's 35 and he hasn't played a competitive match since November. So he hasn't played games in 9 months. Do you really want to sign a guy who's 35 years old who hasn't played a game in 9 months? And where would he even play? Kike Oliveira has been great. Now, there's a possibility. I did hear that he was being rumored to a Serie A team, Kike Oliveira, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it was a La Liga team. So I don't think that would make sense because he's been playing so well. Obviously, you have Giroud up top, you have Buonga on the left side, and you have Kike Oliveira on the right side. Why would they sign Vela? I don't even think he would play, honestly, at this point. Will Diego Luna play for the Mexican national team? I think so. I think he will play for the Mexican national team. He's going to have a better chance of breaking into the roster and getting in, being an integral piece. And I think he's upset with them not calling him up to. I think he's upset with them not calling up to the Olympic team. Like he wasn't at first. He didn't want to be an alternate pick. He wanted to be a first priority pick for the national or for the Olympic team. So I think he's salty about that, and I think that he will. I think he will probably end up playing for Mexico. Honestly. Okay, so Kike is rumored to go to Como. That's interesting because what's his name? The former St. Louis City SC player that's going on loan apparently to Cincinnati. He's a winger, so maybe they're loaning him out so they can sign Kike Oliveira. That's interesting. That's interesting. That could add up. Do you watch any USL? I've watched a couple games like Louisville City, but not much, honestly. I pretty much just watch MLS and Barcelona and some Premier League games from time to time. And obviously I do watch Champions League, but I'm all right. I got so many other sports and things to watch. I tried to, my wife wouldn't allow me to watch the USL. I can't spread myself thin even more than I already am. Are you surprised teams like Charlotte and Cincy waited to the last second and didn't make huge moves after all? I think they were trying to. That's just the name of the game. Sometimes these things don't pan out. Sometimes you have a player that you're trying to target and it looks good, and you put all your eggs in that basket and they just don't work out. I mean, there was the rumors about McKinney going to Cincinnati, which I think there's a couple variables of why that didn't happen. First of all, love Weston McKennie as a player, had a terrible Copa America. Would anybody in their right mind pay 28 million euros for Weston McKennie? Now, obviously, he's going to give you some jersey sales and some attention because he's a national team a star, right? But if you're paying 28 million euros, you could get a way better player for that. You could get two better players for that. 14 million euros each. That's way overpriced. No one's paying 28 million euros for Weston McKennie. He's going to end up going on loan somewhere because no one's going to pay that, and they don't want him at Juve. He's got 1 year left on his deal. That's another variable why nobody's going to pay 28 million euros. But I think that was something that could have happened, but they pulled out because they just thought. I think he didn't want to do it too because the national team was in such a bad spot and it would look bad on him coming to MLS at this age. And I don't think Cincinnati was willing to pay what Juve was asking, which was close to 20 million euros. So, yeah, I just don't think that was ever realistically going to happen. But there were talks. It just never got to a point where it was on the verge of happening. What St. Louis player is going on loan to Cincinnati? It is the Giochini. I always butcher his name. Where he was he went to Como in the winter time. Apparently didn't do it well enough, and then he's coming on loan back to Cincinnati. If Kike leaves to Como, who's taking his spot at top? Bogusz. I don't see that for Bogusz. Interesting topic there. Well, that's the thing too with the way they play in the 4-3-3, right? They play with more like 2 8s and obviously a 6. I would see if Griezmann came, he would play in Kike's role. I think that could be a reason as well. But I was talking to a friend earlier, a prominent LAFC friend of mine, and if they sell Kike Oliveira and don't bring anyone else in, that would be a catastrophic event for LAFC. And I know their fan base would be livid to get rid of arguably their best player right now, playing in form, right? Denny's probably better, but it's close. So is Bogusz, but got a lot of talent on that team. But he's arguably top 3 right now, right? Kike Oliveira. If they sell him and don't replace him, that would be catastrophic. The fan base would be livid, and that would be like, what the hell are we doing? Are we trying to win an MLS Cup this year? Because that would say the opposite of trying to win an MLS Cup if you sell your best player or one of your best players and don't replace him. That would be disastrous. Guys, we're only 9 likes from 50 likes. Make sure you like this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that little bell notification so you never miss a video. I'm going to try to go for 15 more minutes, and I'm going to call it. I haven't seen any other news. I've been checking Twitter. If you have any other questions, fire away. We're going to answer questions for probably about 15 more minutes. I was scared about Almirón to Charlotte rumor. Almirón would have been treated like Figo. Yeah, if Miggy had went to Charlotte, that would have been tough for Atlanta United fans, especially because there are so many fans that's grown with the team. They haven't been good in years, and then for him to go to a team that close, that would have been a total disaster, honestly. So that's a good thing that didn't happen. If you're an Atlanta United fan, would have loved to see Miggy back in MLS, but I understand your relief that he's not back in MLS, especially with Charlotte. Shout out to everyone in the chat, including MLS Moves. Keep up a good work on the channel. Appreciate it. And shout out from the South Bronx. Brother BKL Contreras, aka Sportertainment guy. Hey, I appreciate the shout out, man. We had a very good audience tonight. We almost got to 100 people watching. Probably the biggest live audience we've ever had on this channel, and hopefully it continues to grow. Love doing these with you guys. This has been a fun day. Obviously not as many moves as we would like to hear at this point, but this has been a very interesting day. And it's been a very interesting chat. Appreciate you guys all stopping in and firing your questions away. Always fun to interact with you guys and talk to my fellow MLS friends and fans. I really appreciate everybody coming in here tonight. What about New England signing from Boca? Not Rigoni. Gosh, what's his name? I know they spent like I think it was a club record for him this window. Oh, Langoni. So Luca Langoni. So he is 22 years old. They spent what 6.2 million euros for him. I want to say that that was a New England Revolution transfer record. Look this up real quick and see. Okay, so Gustavo Bo was actually the record by 0.16 euro, 160,000 euros. He was the record, but he's the second most expensive player in New England Revolution history, which is still nice, right? They needed everything they can. They're doing like a soft, actually might be a full reboot, but Carlos Gil is still there, so maybe not a complete reboot, but they're trying to move in a different direction, blow the thing up a little bit. They trade away Dawan Jones. I wonder how long Andrew Farrell is going to continue to be there. I mean, that guy, he's like, I can't believe how long he's been with the New England Revolution. I remember I was a senior in high school when he got drafted, like 2013 or 2013. 328 appearances for the New England Revolution. I can't believe he's still there. 32 years old. I mean, he's got to be the longest tenured player at New England since Diego Fagundes left a couple years ago. I just can't believe he's still there, honestly. It's kind of crazy. Salty Rock, which MLS team do you support? I don't support any MLS team. I just support the league. I think that's what makes me unique is that I'm not biased. I like every team equally. Talk about every team or try to talk about every team as much as I can. I've never been a supporter of any specific team, but I obviously have admiration and support for the teams that are more ambitious. But yeah, I don't have a specific team. I just like watching the league, and hopefully it gets to a point one day where we can say it's one of the best leagues in the world. That's my goal, and that's why I started this channel almost a year ago, and why I started my Twitter account almost 10 years ago, because I want to help the league grow, but I want to be honest and fair and call it out for its shortcomings. But that's why I did this. Have you seen how good Aiden Morris has been so far for Middlesbrough, right? I haven't honestly watched any of his games since he made the move, honestly. Have not watched any of his game. Or was it Nottingham Forest? It was Middlesbrough that he got transferred to. Manuel, a member of the channel, Manuel Villalobos says, need them likes to hit 100. We're one like away from 50. That would be awesome to hit 100 likes. I think we've gained like close to 10 subs on this stream so far, which is nice to see. So make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're at 70 live viewers. We're going to go probably another 10 minutes. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask. We're going to go 10 more minutes. What are your thoughts on San Diego FC? I think San Diego FC is a very interesting project. They are, what was his name? Lozano? Jaime Lozano, right? Isn't that the new? Yes. Okay. So Jaime Lozano, rumored to be the first inaugural manager of San Diego FC. We will see if he is ends up being the coaching hire for San Diego FC. I don't know how I'd feel about that, honestly, because he was kind of a subpar Mexican national team manager, barely below 50%. Coached at Necaxa. This seems like a huge risk. I would hire Miguel Herrera, El Piojo. That's who I would hire. Obviously, I know that there's a lot of people that don't want to go that direction because they think he's washed or that he is. I think he's washed and he'd be a nightmare for the league. But I like that. I like what he would bring, and I'd be interested to see what he does and hear his quotes. And I mean, he would be a dream come true to hear some of the things he would say about MLS, honestly. Let's see what city are you in? Do I sense a Southern accent? I mean, I don't think I have a Southern accent. Maybe I do. I don't notice it. I do live in the South. I live in Tennessee, Knoxville, and I hear people around here who have a way thicker accent than me. So maybe that's why I don't notice it as much. Yeah, I don't think I have an accent, but maybe I do. I don't know. Joey Foster, another member of the channel, said, "Geez, just got out of a meeting, but I've been trying to listen in. Smash that like button, everyone. Yes, make sure you like the stream if you haven't already. I think we're over 50 likes now, which is great. I think we're at 51 or 52. You should go to one Knoxville game. Yeah, I've seen that they had a USL team. I just haven't, I just been so busy. I don't really have time to don't really have any time to go to game. I've only been to like 3 MLS games in my life. I've been to an Orlando City game. Um, I've been to a Charlotte FC game and a Nashville SC game. Let me check the Twitter timeline, see if anything else has happened since we've been on the stream. Transfer window closes in less than 3 hours. Also, so that Giochini loan from Como to Cincinnati, according to Pat Brennan, it is a loan option with no option to buy, so it's just a straight loan. They can't buy him. It doesn't say. Let's see. It doesn't say how long the loan's for. That's definitely an interesting move from FC Cincinnati. They bought out Aaron Bupenza, I think, and he was a bust too, but he they have Kevin Kelsey, who's been a really good signing as a striker. So I don't think the striker wasn't as pressing as maybe others had thought it would be. But we'll see what happens. Wingers, it's interesting. It's an interesting move by Cincinnati. Vandy MLS, am I right? You sound like a Vandy fan just saying, I am a Vandy fan. I actually have my Vandy shirt on right now. Vanderbilt. Always represent Vandy. Off to Edgar's space. Peace, everyone. I appreciate you stopping by. I might actually join that in a little bit myself. You need to hit up as many cities as you can to get the game day experience everywhere. Yeah, that's honestly part of my bucket list. I would love to attend every single MLS or visit every MLS stadium. Providence Park is definitely on my bucket list. I want to go out to Portland and check out that experience. Looks incredible. I would love to go to Portland and watch a Timbers game. Sadly, they're not as good as they once were, but the atmosphere is still going to be the same. It's still a crazy venue. Hopefully, I get to go visit that at some point. Which city besides Las Vegas would you like to see become an MLS expansion team or get an MLS expansion team? I think Indianapolis is probably the most likely, but which one would I like to see? I think we need to continue expanding out west. I would like to see Sacramento get a team. I'd like to see Phoenix get a team. We have so many teams on the East Coast. I would love to see more teams out west. I mean, when Nashville SC has to play a season in the West, you know that they need more teams out west in that situation. As an NYC fan, David Lee did a great job until Talis Magno loaned to Sporting Club Corinthians. They complete between 2 DPs and perfect U20 players. There's no move between transfers. Yeah, we looked at that earlier. They haven't done anything this window, but they had a very active winter transfer window. So maybe that was to be expected that it would be a little bit slower this time, which is sad, obviously, because you want to try to go for it, right? You're trying to win every single year. You're trying to, not saying you will, but so I could see why that would be disappointing. I think Phoenix could be a good addition to MLS, close to California, which is a hotbed for soccer, and close to Mexico, so a big Latino influence. Yeah, I think Phoenix has to be in that top 3 to 5 potential expansion cities, right? I think it has to be. I think eventually they'll get to 36 to 40 teams. So we'll see who ends up getting an expansion team of the 40. I think they'll do 40, and they're going to have an MLS 1 and MLS 2, and that will be their version of expansion in MLS. That's what I think. We'll see what happens. San Antonio should get a team. Their USL team is pretty well run. They got pushed aside by Austin. Yeah, I just don't know if they want to have San Antonio's close to Austin, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if they will do a team in San Antonio. I think 3 is about as big as they want to get in Texas, if I'm not mistaken. Royce to LA Galaxy is a done deal. Yeah, I reported that earlier. Manuel Vet said that both sides have signed on the not need to be finals tonight since Royce is free. Yeah, I saw that the league, Manuel had posted that the league was the holdup in that deal of getting it signed and over the line. So we'll see what happens and see. I don't have any concerns about that. I know it'll get done. It's just a matter of when it will get done. Then when they get to 40 teams, MLS will let 25 teams make the playoffs. Yeah, probably be 30 teams, honestly, right? Probably be 30. Hell, maybe everybody will make the playoffs at that point. All right, guys, I think I'm going to end the stream here. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. This was a fun episode or live stream talking about the MLS transfers that happened this window. If the Pochettino or hiring happens, be on the lookout for another emergency stream because we will definitely have to stream that. So make sure if you enjoyed the video, like this video down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the little bell notification so you never miss any of my videos. I'll be dropping a quarterfinals Leagues Cup prediction video tomorrow night at 6 p.m. So be on the lookout for that. Share the channel with a friend. We're always trying to grow the MLS Moves community. And also make sure you follow me on Twitter and on X at MLS Moves. And I appreciate everybody coming in. And until next time, I will see you all soon.